Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Diamond Chat, courtesy of Dr. Karen Kramer in Grafton. Tim Elkhorn with AM 930 WEOL, Sean Bennett with the Chronicle Telegram. And, Sean, we've got a couple of newcomers behind the camera. We've got Andy Bull Barch, yes, the host of Bullseye on the afternoon on AM 930 WEOL, and Kristen from the Chronicle Telegram. Boy, it takes two people to fill in for the almighty Bruce Bishop.
I'm sure he'll be loving to hear that. Like, he needs a bigger head than he already has. So, out there on the road on vacation, enjoy that compliment there, Bruce.
Wow. So two people to replace Bruce Bishop on this week's edition of Diamond Chat. But, again, great to have you with us. And, again, a huge thank you to everybody who's been watching the past couple of weeks. Boy, the numbers have been fantastic on the viewership as far as Diamond Chat is concerned. So we're very thankful for that. All right, Bull Barch, we hear you quite a bit on AM 930 WEOL. Now we get to hear you on Diamond Chat as you get to fire away at the topics for Sean Bennett and yours truly. So, hey, welcome to Diamond Chat, and here we go.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad that I'm behind the camera. Better to be heard and not seen. But we'll begin with some big news on both sides. We'll begin with softball, talking about the brand-new polls that were released, and then we'll get into baseball, talking about the season being pushed back beginning next year.
Yeah, the first coaches poll released for softball, and 3 Lorain County teams landed on it, which is nice to see. No surprise, Elyria and Keystone are 2. Elyria finished number 3 in Division I. Right behind Lebanon is number 1, who they faced in the state final last year.
Correct.
And Lebanon is comfortably in the lead. They're at number 1. Perrysburg at number 2. Elyria with 5 first-place votes in number 3. So right where they kind of want to be, kind of just creeping up on the other guys there. Keystone, number 1 in Division II with 4 first-place votes. Tight kind of race there with Oak Harbor. I think it's only about 4 points difference separate them. And then Wellington, number 8 in Division III. So Wellington kind of jumping in there and representing Lorain County a little bit. So nice to see that we have 3 teams kind of getting the job done there for the state, getting some state recognition, I guess.
Yeah, and again, Lorain County, one of the best as far as reputations are concerned, but it's good to see Wellington get in there. That's some nice recognition for Coach Sonigal and the Lady Duke program. Now, as Bull alluded to, there is some news on the baseball side of things. We've been talking here on Diamond Chat about the horrible weather that we've been experiencing. A couple of weeks ago, we mentioned would the OHSAA ever consider moving baseball to a fall sport? I think the consensus was that's never going to happen. But the OHSAA did make some news. They have determined, they voted, that next year the baseball season will be pushed back, I guess that's the right term, 1 week. So the state championship game for baseball next year will take place in the second weekend of June. So the regular season gets moved up 1 week. So perhaps that will help as far as the horrible weather is concerned. But it will also make for an interesting scenario because the softball state championship, unless they're changed, would still remain on that first weekend in June. Baseball next year, 2019, everything gets moved back, and so they'll go to the second weekend in June. Perhaps that'll alleviate some of, not all, but some of the issues with the horrible weather.
Yeah, and that's good for fans who want to maybe see both the girls and the boys compete. They could do weekend after weekend instead of having to make a choice now. So good thing for the fans, I guess.
By the way, it was not a unanimous vote by the OHSAA. I think, Bull, we had the news release 7-2, I believe,
That's
was
correct.
the vote.
7-2, yeah.
All right, what's next up?
Well, let's shine the spotlight on the SWC. As I understand it, it was a pretty big week for a few teams in both softball and in baseball in the SWC last week.
You want me to start
Sure.
that on the baseball
switch it up,
side?
yeah.
All right. Well, on the baseball side, a big week for Avon Lake in the Southwestern Conference. The Shoremen under head coach Kevin Marlowe, they were able to rip off 4 consecutive wins in the SWC. That's a very competitive contest for Avon Lake. They had wins over Amherst, North Homestead, Berea Mid-Park, and Avon. So a big week for the Shoremen as far as SWC play is concerned. But, boy, just by a couple of the teams that I mentioned there, notably here in Lorain County, Amherst and Avon, that's going to be a very competitive race throughout the year. But a good week for Avon Lake. They've always had a very competitive baseball program. So for the Shoremen, they are right in the hunt as far as the SWC is concerned. And for the girls on the softball side, Boy, it was a real crazy week in the SWC.
Yeah, a little bit like the old Wild West there, kind of a shootout at the Crazy Corral here. So we talked last week about Amherst kind of having that bad news where they had to forfeit a couple wins. But the one win they started out the week with was a loss against Olmsted Falls. That wasn't kind of counted among those forfeitures. But immediately North Ridgeville the next day beats Olmsted Falls, who knocks off Amherst. Then Olmsted Falls bounces back and beats Midview. Avon beats North Ridgeville, and then Amherst beats Avon. It's crazy. It's like you pretty much you can't put your money down on any team in that league right now, because when two teams step on the diamond in the Southwestern Conference when it comes to softball, it's anybody's game, and that's kind of fun to watch, and it kind of makes it interesting to see what's gonna happen as far as going down the stretch and things like that.
I'll tell you what, whether it's the baseball side or the softball side, when it's SWC, it is as competitive as it gets. And as you said, Sean, that's great for the fans. It probably gives the coaches a few gray hairs. But, man, when you have competition like that, it really makes everybody better.
Yeah, I think it's going to be right down to the wire. You hope that it's going to be right down to the wire. It's going to be fun. There's so many good teams in that conference, both sides. So it's going to be a great kind of a fun. It's going to make the regular season more fun than it usually is, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Bull, what's next?
Well, you guys over the last few weeks here, since you launched Diamond Chat, have talked about a number of names and a number of teams, but there are a few teams and some names that haven't been discussed. So we have a few making their Diamond Chat debut.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Fire away.
I'll go early on this. A couple teams. We haven't really talked about EC, and that's because this week they got their first two wins, and it was kind of crazy because it was both against Rocky River. They beat them at home. Then a couple days later, they beat them on the road. And the interesting thing about this is they have a couple of twins there, Stephanie Griffin and Kaylee Griffin. Stephanie had 3 hits in the first win at home, and Kaylee had 3 hits in the second win. So that was kind of a fun little, trivia tidbit there. Vermilion, I haven't talked a lot about them, and same type of thing. Maria Keller with 3 hits in a win against Brookside, 4 hits in a win against Huron. Cora Peterson with 3 hits and 4 RBIs in a win against Huron. And then if we're talking about new, I can't stop, and I got to talk about my freshmen. I've got some freshmen on the softball side that have really had great performances out the gate. I'm just going to run through them real quick. Wellington's Peyton Regal made her first 3 high school starts this week. She's 3-0. So freshman out at Wellington, just kind of getting it done on the mound. North Ridgeville's Rachel Meese has had multiple hits in more games this season than not. She's had 2 or 3 hits in almost most of her games. Lyria's Kerrigan Williams had a walk-off hit in the 8-7 win over Brunswick, and Wellington's Kendall Brassey, home run, double, and 7 RBIs in a win over Brooklyn this week.
Before I get to my 60 seconds in baseball, I want to go back to those freshmen at the softball level, because every year, even the games that we cover on WEOL, there are numerous 9th grade players who step into the varsity level at softball and just excel. And it really goes to show the quality of the youth programs that are here in Lorain County, because they just don't start playing at 9th grade level. I mean, they are groomed to become a varsity softball player as a freshman. Yeah. It's amazing.
It's the youth programs coupled with the travel ball programs.
Right,
there are great travel programs around here. And you're right, every year there seems to be, at least on the softball side that I watch, freshmen doing it. I mean, just look at Elyria last year with some of those freshmen that really, freshman battery, some of the freshmen in the field that were making big plays defensively at the plate. Yeah, you're right. It's amazing every year.
By the way, that didn't take away from my 60 seconds. You're not allowed to run that clock on me yet, but I won't take all 60 seconds. But there is a team that I want to talk about this week that really is putting together an outstanding season on the baseball side that we have not yet talked about or chatted about on Diamond Chat, and that's Lake Ridge. They are off to a tremendous start. Lake Ridge, as we tape this, with a 6-0 season so far. They have yet to lose a baseball game. They have a 0.76 ERA as a team.
Wow.
I mean, they just have shut everybody down. So a great start for Lake Ridge. Cole Bramhall is the primary pitcher for Lake Ridge, and he has just been outstanding on the hill. So making their debut on Diamond Chat this week, Lake Ridge. Hats off to their program, a 6-0 start, and certainly they're going to be a team to be reckoned with as far as the year moves along.
Well, I'm glad we get to talk to them about on Diamond Chat, because on the football videos and the wrestling videos, there's no Lake Ridge mentioned because they don't have a football team and a wrestling team. So kudos to Lake Ridge to being able to get on this Diamond Chat, because they obviously do stand out in the sports that they do participate in.
Boy, no doubt about it. So great start for Lake Ridge, 6-0 as we sit here and tape Diamond Chat. Bull, what's next?
Well, some segments are so good, you have to keep them coming back. And I think my favorite one last week was name dropping, where we take a look at some of the top individual performers from last week. Let's name drop again.
I'll let you start.
Okay. Well, we got to start right away with Keystone. They're off to an 11-0 start, so I'm going to start with the 2 players of the week we had in the Chronicle last week. Sydney Campbell is 9-0. Of those 9 wins, 7 of them are shutouts. Of those 7 shutouts, 2 of them are perfect games. She had back-to-back perfect games. She has a 0.14 ERA with 76 strikeouts. I can't imagine a much better start for a high school pitcher, so great job to her. Autumn McCord on the same team, batting .621 with 19 runs scored, 23 RBIs, 6 doubles, 3 home runs, including a grand slam during one of those perfect games. We'll pop down. We've got Lauren Couture from Amherst with 2 home runs and 4 RBIs in 1 game against Avon. Casey McGraw, 3 for 3 with a home run, double, 3 RBIs, and a win over Lakewood. Macy Godbolt from Elyria with 2 home runs and an 8-7 win over Brunswick, which I talked about earlier. So yeah, there's a big, some big performances going around on the softball, and I'll keep it under a minute right there.
All right, on the baseball side, I mentioned Cole Bramhall over at Lake Ridge. He has just been dynamite on the hill for Lake Ridge. Hats off to him. A young man that we mentioned last week on Diamond Chat, but it's certainly it's worth bringing his name up again. Evan Shawver. We talked about the fact that he had a 19 strikeout ball game. He then came back with a 15 strikeout performance for the Amherst Comets. He is just an exceptional pitcher. All signs pointing to the fact he'll probably go in the MLB draft this June. And I'm going to share my 60 seconds here with Bull Barch, because, Bull, you had Elyria and Lorraine on WEOL in our Diamond Duel, and certainly for the Elyria Pioneers, 8-3 on the year. They swept that doubleheader. You had the first game. Who stood out for you for the Pioneers?
Well, there were a number of guys that stood out for the Pioneers, and I think as you take a look at that first game, 5-3, very close game, a seesaw battle, but I thought it was Chris Willis. I mean, he came out of the bullpen. He was lights out, just over 2 innings of relief work. He was sensational, and he inherited a pretty tough situation when he first came into the game. He put out a couple fires along the way. He was really good in that very tight game. They won 14-4 in 5 innings in the second game, but in the game that was close, he really stood out.
All right. Good job. See, that's why we brought Bull along. Takes 2 people to replace Bruce Bishop, and Bull obviously providing some commentary as well. All right. What's up next? What's the next topic?
Well, if you want a bright smile, you visit Dr. Karen Kramer, right?
That's right.
And I know every week you guys pick out someone who's a bright smile performer. So who is this week's bright smile performer?
Well, I just alluded to him. Boy, how do you not give it to Evan Shawver this week? Although if we had gone softball, it certainly may have gone to Sydney Campbell. But, boy, Evan Shawver, he has just been phenomenal. I'm sure he's bringing a big, bright smile to Matt Rossitano's face, the head coach of the Comets, when he sits in that dugout. Because when you have back-to-back performances of 19 strikeouts and then 15 strikeouts, coupled with the fact that in 24 innings of work this year, Evan Shawver has not allowed an earned run. That's why he's one of the best pitchers in Northeast Ohio. And as I said, probably you'll hear his name called when the Major League Baseball draft comes up a little bit later on. So Evan Shawver, boy, that's a great, big, bright smile performance. And he's putting together all sorts of bright smile performances for the Amherst Comets. But he is more than deserving. What an outstanding year he is putting together.
Yeah, you expected him to have good performance coming in, but he's jumped over the bar. I mean, 34 strikeouts in 2 games is mind-boggling, and no earned runs. I mean, kudos to him. I mean, definitely a bright smile deserving for sure.
No doubt about that. All right, you want to set up the next segment before we call it a day?
Well, I was just going to say, let's round third and head home, and let's get into our walk-off segment of the show.
Yeah, our walk-off subject this week will be Midview senior Gabby Shackelford. 4-year starter for Midview, 4-year starter at shortstop, one of the middle-of-the-order hitters. She's just been one of the best offensive threats, I think, in the history of the program. Going to play Division I softball at Cleveland State. She's gonna kind of give us some peek behind the curtain on her personality. She's a lot of fun to talk to this week.
That's very cool. So, again, Walk Off with Gabby Shackelford is coming up next. But for now, that's going to do it for this week's edition of Diamond Chat. Again, filling in for Bruce Bishop and doing a great job. Kristen Bauer behind the camera. Bull Barch asking all the questions. Sean Bennett from the Chronicle Telegram. As always, a pleasure to work with you. And, of course, I'm Tim Elkhorn with AM 930 WEOL. By the way, Bruce Bishop, if you're watching this somehow, be safe in your travels. We joke around, but obviously we wish Bruce all the best as he goes out there and does a little storm chasing. So, Bruce, be safe. All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of Diamond Chat, courtesy of Dr. Karen Kramer. For Sean Bennett, I'm Tim Elkhorn. Thanks again for watching.
We're here with Midview senior Gabby Shackelford, this week's guest on Walk Off. So we're just going to get right into it. We're going to ask some fun questions. You let me know what off the top of your head, some of your answers here. We'll start with an easy one. What was the name of your first softball team?
Oh, it was just OGSO. I forget. I think it was orange. That's all I remember.
Like Class A or?
Yeah. No,
right?
I think it was farm.
Farm.
Yeah.
Really, right young there. Okay.
Yeah.
What is now? You're in charge of. Let's say you're in charge of the warm-up music before the game. What's your must-have song in that mix?
All I Do Is Win.
All I Do Is Win. What's the last movie you saw in the movie theater?
Oh, I just saw it. Love, Simon.
Love, Simon?
Yeah, it was really good.
So I was going to say 1 to 5 star rating. What do you give it?
Like a 5. It was
5
really
stars?
Good, yeah.
Awesome. How about, do you have a favorite YouTuber?
David Dobrik.
All right. Favorite social media platform? What's your favorite?
Twitter.
Twitter. Okay, so you're playing at Cleveland State next year. When you go downtown Cleveland, what's your favorite thing to do down there?
Oh, I like just walking around with my friends, like trying to find like new places to eat.
Do good restaurants? Do you have a favorite down there? The one you like to go to?
Barrio's always a good choice.
Barrio, awesome. What is the memories of your first home run that you ever hit?
Oh, it was during Little League, and my dad was umpiring, and those fences are short, but it like cleared it. It was like parking lot, almost hit a car. It was great.
How excited were you running around those bases?
I was like, I don't know. It's like a feeling that you can't really explain. Like you've been waiting for it, and then you're just like, finally, like yes.
Now you're a middle infielder. Do you have memories of the first time you turned a double play?
Oh wow, I don't know.
No.
No.
So the batting is where it's at.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much it. I appreciate you being a guest on this week's Diamond Chat.